Now, I watch a lot of Russian state media and read RT and PASS and Pravda trying to understand why the Russians say what they're trying to say. And it strikes me that you need to understand that the Russians see Ukrainians as Russians who are traitors against Russia. And if you understand that, then everything else that they do kind of makes sense in a bizarre way. Like that's what they're thinking. Ukraine is not its own entity. Ukraine has no autonomy of its own. Ukraine does not really exist. They will maintain. And if you understand that, then why they're saying what they're saying makes a lot of sense. They look at Ukraine as traitors. Okay, so here's Vladimir Solyov and other propagandists on his show talking about this here. Special thanks to the Russian Media Monitor, as always, for doing great work in collating this. Listen to this. Frightened Zelensky raced to Budapest, to the EU's unofficial summit dedicated to the new realities with Trump. In Kyiv, they fear that Trump will not only leave Ukraine without support, but will destroy the morale of Ukraine's armed forces. That's why the efforts of Ukrainian beggars are focused on Europe. We are ready for peace, says Putin, but not on the basis of some wish lists that keep changing from month to month, but on the basis of realities that are taking shape and on the basis of agreements that were reached in Istanbul. Well, you kind of forgot about the agreement reached in Budapest. And if you get that one wrong, all the other ones seem null and void from that point forward. Like, you were supposed to be protecting Ukraine's borders, and you reneged on that. But based on the current realities, the West should acknowledge the current realities and start negotiating. Okay, about negotiations. They already started to say, yes, we already achieved all we wanted in Kursk. We can leave now. No, guys, you fail to realize the most important thing. We can spit on what you're thinking. We could spit on your plans. We could spit on what you're begging for. Okay, he's doing a lot of spitting here. He's pretty upset about this. But he's upset about this because he doesn't want to make a deal with Ukrainians. There's no honor in making a deal with Ukrainians, and he'll explain exactly why in just a moment. Now, this is completely backwards from the way that the rest of the world is thinking about this. We're looking at it going, there's no honor in Russia. Like what you have done to Ukraine, you have reneged on your deal, and you have transgressed their borders when you were supposed to uphold it. But wait a minute, listen to how he's thinking. We won't enter into any agreements with you. We will destroy you. Destroy you. It's useless to talk to Putin using the language of ultimatums. That is, you need to give Putin everything that he asked for. That is, all the territories that he says he's absorbed, even if he hasn't fully accomplished the Russian army all the way to the border of those territories, you need to give it to him anyway. And you need to give him no NATO, and you need to give him an agreement that Ukraine's going to be unarmed, and so on and so forth. Why? What does Ukraine get out of this? Nothing except for a ceasefire? That doesn't make any sense. Why would Ukraine possibly agree to that? We will be destroying you, period. Interestingly, at some point, you will even understand for what, because by its nature, the Ukrainian political thinking is a betrayal, and traitors have to be destroyed. Listen, it's not that Ukrainians are thinking differently. It's Ukrainian thinking, whatever that is really Russians thinking in this Ukrainian way about Russia, which is a betrayal of Russia, because to his mind, his basic assumptions are Ukrainians are Russians, and they're just doing this differently or wrongly or whatever. Go ahead, Rodin. In my opinion, Ukraine took on an image that should frighten everyone. It is an image, a meme. It's a nation that is a ghost, a mercenary, a T. Now, what is this image that is a ghost? It defied Russia. It defied Russia because it was part of the Russian sphere, of the Ruski Mir. It was part of this world that Russia had dominated. And had Ukraine not bucked the system in 2014 and just gone on with the Russian agreements, none of this would be happening. But we had the protests on the Maidan after the president decided to, nah, we're not going with Europe, we're going with Russia, and the people came out in droves, right? Had that not happened, they would be happy with a puppet Ukrainian government, because after all, these are just supposed to be little Russians anyway. That's the thinking. You have to understand that that's the way that they're thinking in order to make sense of what's going on. It's too bad that the West didn't get to realizing it yet, but we should be working on this. We should work on hammering it into their heads that an example of Ukraine should never be replicated. Right. They don't want anybody else rising up and defying Russia because there are pockets within Russia that might not be so happy about Russia, and they're thinking about Ukraine as just an extension of Russia. Their methods they came up with, measures they've implemented, they should not be repeated. What currently exists on the territory of Ukraine, notice they say the territory of Ukraine, not actually Ukraine. It's this so-called place that's a fiction. It's not real in the way that they're thinking about this. When the US financing is stopped, it will start pouring out everywhere. Let's stop there for a second. I'm coming to more and more to believe that even if the US financing stopped, and I don't know that that's going to happen, I don't know what Trump will or won't do, I'm coming to believe that even if that were cut off, Ukraine will need money, but not necessarily weapons from the US because they're growing their own domestic weapons, and it's going to take it's a lag. It's like 6 months out before they have like the correct kind of missiles that they can hit into Russia. But they're working on their own arms production right now, and that's exactly the right thing for their own protection so that they can carry on even without the United States if necessary. And I hope that that doesn't happen. I hope that the United States stands with Ukraine, but we'll see how that plays out. A key issue that will arise as to whether there can be negotiations, a peaceful resolution of this conflict. What does it mean, a peaceful resolution of a conflict? And he answers, when they are ready to give up what we want, so they have to meet all of our demands per our goals in starting the special military operation. Yeah, they started the special military operation. It was not pushed upon them. That's a peaceful resolution of a conflict. We couldn't care less whether they are ready or not. Either way, we will finish off this scum. Now, look at how they talk about Ukrainians, and look at how Ukrainians have no agency, or they are not individuals whose rights are to be respected. They're simply Russian traitors. That's how they think about Ukrainians. Right now, we are in the best position and should achieve maximum results. It's an open question if they mean that they should be pressing on with that as well. It's over. They are not to be talked about. They can't be trusted. We know everything about them. They can't be trusted. Remember, to their Russian minds, Russia is awesome, everybody else is less, and they are Russians who have betrayed Russia. And that's what's at issue here. That's it. They have to be finished off completely. If the US tries to give us any kind of ultimatum, the Stalin Strait will appear in the middle of America. Okay, so I wasn't familiar with the concept Stalin Strait. So I went to Perplexity, its AI, just to ask the question, what is the Stalin Strait? The Stalin Strait is not a real geographical feature, but rather a provocative concept mentioned in Russian propaganda. Here's an explanation of the concept. The idea of the Stalin Strait emerged from statements made by Vladimir Solyov, a prominent Russian state TV presenter and supporter of President Vladimir Putin. In a broadcast in February of 2023, Solyov suggested that if the United States were to issue an ultimatum to Russia regarding the Ukraine conflict, Russia should respond by destroying America's critical infrastructure, like just blasting a hole right through the center of the country. Specifically, Solyov stated that the Stalin Strait will emerge in the U.S., implying that the destruction of American infrastructure would be so severe that it would create a strait, that's a narrow body of water, connecting two larger bodies of water across North American continent. And then like the top half of the states that remained would be kind of with Canada and the bottom half with Mexico. This imaginary strait would supposedly be named after Joseph Stalin, the former Soviet dictator. So that's what he's talking about when he's talking about the Stalin Strait. How about that? I will say it once again. We should destroy every dam, every hydro system. We should wash this Nazi scum off the face of the Russian soil. Remember, it's Russian soil. It's not Ukrainian soil. Ukrainians are not Ukrainians to the Russian mind. They are just Russians who are treasonous. We are ready to talk on the basis of the document from December 2021 about ensuring the security of the Russian Federation. For us, Ukraine isn't even a topic of discussion, although you're talking about it. It simply doesn't exist. Although it does, but it doesn't exist as Ukrainians. It exists as Russians who have this Ukrainian idea, who are then being treasonous to Russia, which is what they actually are. Okay, that was his diatribe, but it helps you understand the Russian mind. Now, what kind of deal can you actually make with a traitor? I'm not saying that Ukrainians are traitors. I'm saying in their world, they'll have no compunctions of going back on the deal with these so-called traitors who, let's say you could make a deal. 5 years, are they back to take more territory because they have to cast these scum out of Russian lands? Just asking. So I hope that helps. Put your comments below. Do you understand the Russian mindset now better than you did when you started this video? I hope you did, and I hope it helped. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the likes, the shares, the subscribes, and thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.